Hello and welcome back to Suspend Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bethalkis, and this is His Dark Materials, Season 1, Episode 4, Armor. Welcome, everybody. Before I get started here, I'm going to take care of a little bit of business as I normally do. If you like what you see here, hit the like button, subscribe button as well down there. If you want to know when I'm going to be on next again, you can hit the bell. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. So if you really want to know when I'm be on, go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at my schedule that's up there. It's also mirrored over my Facebook page as well. And speaking of Facebook, I have a Facebook group page which you guys can sign up on and basically post anything you guys want to post about, talk amongst yourselves, all that kind of stuff. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I have a Patreon page, but I don't have any tiers set up as of yet. But I will at the end of this year, beginning of next year. Okay, with that said, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the shit out of the episode. If you have not seen the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video you can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the new paddle. Yes. There we go. And as always, there's the perpetual spoiler alert right above me here. Oh, and also at the very end of this video, if you're still on the fence about joining up, there's going to be a video that pops up here that is basically YouTube has algorithms and all that kind of stuff. What they do is they try and match one video out of my vast video library that matches the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching as closely as possible and pops it up there for you. Up here is going to be Watchmen. Watchmen will be up there. So we open up with a hot air balloon kind of flying through the sky, and some guy singing a tune with his daemon. And they're going to be looking for Yorick, the bear, who was tricked out of his armor by getting drunk and losing his armor that way. And this guy Lee climbs up his the sails, if you will, to the balloon. He looks down. He actually sees the boats of the Egyptians below him, and says, "Looks like we're not the other one going north, of course." And they're heading that way as well. So Lee ends up he's outside. He's going to smoke out in the docks there, and he gets stopped by basically a cop, like a dock cop, who tells him, it's an oil port, no smoking, obviously. So the portsman also tells him, he's heard of an aeronaut that makes trouble wherever he goes. And Lee's actually trying to inquire about a bear, of course, and the portsman's not having any of it at this point. So Coram, in the meantime, he's talking to John Farr about, you know, that he's going to take Lyra into town with him, and they're going to go and meet somebody to see if they can get the Council of Witches to listen to them at this point. And he says he needs to bring her with him just because he needs to make sure that she knows how to use the alethiometer, of course, at this point. And he's walking with her, and he goes, "How do I know you know this? How to work this?" And she goes, "Well, it's like the rung of a ladder." She goes, "I'm climbing down, and the next rung appears in my mind," is what she says. So she's trying to explain it and how it just comes to her, kind of thing. And she's about to show him, and when they see some magisterium, and he says, "Put it away. There's eyes everywhere," is what he tells her. So they end up meeting the guy who can get them in touch with the witch council. And Coram says that he used to know a witch by the name of Seraphina, and he wants to know if the man can get in touch with her so that he can give her a message because he misses her, all that kind of stuff and whatnot. And the guy says, we don't want to get involved in the war that you guys are dealing with. And he, basically Coram is saying, we need help. So that's why we want to ask. And then we find out that some of the witches are actually working with the board, and they are helping ferry the children through this town, as a matter of fact, to get them to what's called the station, or, the witches actually call it by another name as well. So, actually, I jumped ahead a little bit there. Sorry. Yeah, but he knows that the children are being ported through that area. Ah, well, I jumped a little bit ahead. Sorry. Um, so this guy also knows that Lyra has the alethiometer, and he says, "Can you use it?" He asks her first where the books are that she uses, and she goes, "I don't have any books. I know how to use it." And he goes, "Okay." Tell me which of these cloud pies is what I got. Unfortunately, I didn't have the um, subtitles on. I wish I did, but so I missed a little bit. English is my, I guess, my first language, but obviously I don't speak the Queen's English, so I couldn't understand sometimes what they were saying. I thought they said cloud pie, but who knows what it was. And he wants to know which one of them belongs to Serafina. And so she looks at she uses the compass and finds which one it is. And he's like, he's impressed. And he gives her a sprig of Seraphina's plant there and says if she needs her, she's going to use that to call her. And then she asks him something curious. She goes, "What kind of question have we not asked that we should have asked you?" And he goes, "Well, you're weak and you're going to need some help in order to get up to the north. And you're going to want the services of a bear named Yorick Berenson." And Corum, Corum and Lyra ends up going to find Yorick, and they find him in the metalworks, and he doesn't have any armor on, and he is fairly grumpy at this point, and they want to ask for his services, and he refuses, telling them that he knows the child cutters are there and that they're bringing people through, they're bringing children through, but and the others won't speak of it. And he basically tells him that he's not for sale, even though Lyra calls him a coward. And he gets in her face and she doesn't flinch. And he goes, "You know what? I'm not for sale." And he just kind of leaves at this point. Then we see Mrs. Coulter. She goes and she's been summoned before the cardinal, of course. And Father McPhail, McPhail, admonishes her he goes, "What part of keeping your head down didn't you understand?" He goes, "You basically brought in troops to a college, ripped it to shreds. You fucked everything up," is what he tells her. And she says, "You know what?" Basically, the cardinal comes in at this point, and she says to him, "You know what? Whatever punishment you're giving me, tell me what it is now." And the cardinal's like, "No, we're not going to punish you." He goes, "But the board is no longer yours. I'm going to bring that over to Father McPhail, and you're relieved of duty, essentially." And she goes, "No, that's not going to happen. You know why? Because I have Lord Asriel." And not only that, she goes, "Once we get what we want here, you're going to give me the alethiometer that you have in your possession, and in exchange for him, of course." And the cardinal's like, "All right, we'll see what's going on, but yeah, you can keep the board for right now." So Coram, in the meantime, tells Lyra that the bear could have killed her, and she needs to be, watch herself a little bit. And she's like, "I've been watching myself quite a bit longer than you have, old man. So shut up, boomer." Yeah, no, not in so many words, but basically she tells him, "You know what? I know how to take care of myself. I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it." And then she asks him what happened between him and Serafina. And he tells her, that they had a son who died of a disease, and then Serafino basically wanted to destroy the world in order to get him back. And she ran off basically to fly the skies, essentially. Uh, yeah, and he ends up sobbing and crying, and she apologizes for asking about that. So Lee and Hester, in the meantime, enter a bar looking for a game of hazard or flippity flop, as he says, or a drink of hot rum with somebody he can talk to. And finally, he gets no takers and he says, "Okay, I'm looking for a bear." And of course, no one answers him then. And people are starting to leave at this point. So what does he do? He starts a bar fight. And he's getting his ass handed to him at some point in time. And finally, he does get his ass handed to him and gets thrown out of the bar. And it turns out that he basically did it so he could steal from them. He got 3 watches and a wallet out of it. Yeah. Um, Mrs. Coulter, in the meantime, and she enters. Excuse me. She gets to enter where the alethiometer is that they have at the magisterium, and the priest that's there tells her anything she asks will probably take a couple of weeks in order to answer because he's got to go through the books and stuff like that. And she basically only wants one question answer. Who is Lyra? Yeah. Who is Lyra? which is kind of weird considering that she's supposed to be her mother. So that was kind of an odd question. I thought there was a couple odd things that happened during this episode that kind of raised some questions in my head. I know that other people have read the books. I have not read the books, so I don't know. Yeah. And yeah, I agree with you, Farm. Not the question I expected either. Um, so Lyra, in the meantime, runs into Lee, who's yelling about the bear outside the bar again, of course, and she asks him, who's keeping the bear trapped. And he goes, Where's the bear at?" He goes, I'd like to, talk to him." And she's like, "I'm not going to tell you where he is." She goes, "We need the bear, and I don't trust you," kind of thing. And so yeah, she's not going to tell him where the bear is, and she walks away from him. Corum, in the meantime, and John Farr are talking about Lyra, that people are looking at her and that they need to keep somebody on her at all times, because he even mentions that the guy that they brought her to, that talks to the witch coven, the witch to the north, I should say, he looked at her when she used the alethiometer greedily, is what he says. He was greedy. Yeah. Um, I did watch the movie your thumbnail was from. Yeah. That was I know I grabbed the wrong thumbnail on that one. I was kind of hoping no one would notice, but yeah, hey, it happens. Um, and then all of a sudden this bird comes flying down. They're like, "Is that a spy?" And Quorum's like, "No, that's Seraphina's daemon. It's Kaiser." And John Farr is like, "So it's true, the witches can send out their daemons farther away from them, using whatever magic that they have." And so Kaiser tells them that some of the witches are working for the board, or working with the board. The children are at the station, and the witches call it Balvanga, which translates roughly to fields of evil, is what it is. And yeah, which is not a good thing when the witches are calling it that. And Seraphina will help them any way that she can, of course. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's something that Mrs. Coulter says, or actually writes, Pen, that really makes me think that she's a witch, even though people keep telling me she's not a witch. But let's get to it there. Uh, Lyra ends up seeing a glimpse of the city that is in the northern lights as her and Pan are looking at the lights, and then it disappears. And she goes, "I wonder if that's where dust comes from," uh, which obviously we're going to find out here in a little bit. Tony comes by, and they talk a little bit about, Billy, his brother, and she says she'll do whatever it takes in order to get the kids back, of course. So Lee ends up finding Yorick on his own out in the metalworks there, and it's been 3 years since they've met. And Lee says, he owes Yorick and asks where his armor is. And Yorick is drunk again and just kind of wallowing in self pity at this point, and says, "Just get away from me." He goes, "I didn't ask you to come and find me, and I don't want you here." And he goes off to go and drink some more at that point. So Lee ends up talking to Sisselman, the portsman that we saw earlier there, and he comes in and says that Lee owns Yorick's armor. And Sisselman says, no, the armor belongs to the Magisterium." And Yorick is paying a blood debt, is what he tells Lee. And Lee starts trying to go into a whole bunch of legalese, trying to befuddle Sisselman. And Sisselman's like, "No, no, no, that's not working, man. Not going to happen." And Lee looks outside and sees the Magisterium walking outside, and he goes, "What the hell's going on with the North?" He goes, "This town used to be a free place where anybody could roam, anybody could come to." And he says, why is the Magisterium suddenly allowed to take hold here? And Sisselman brings out a gun and tells him, you might not want to ask so many damn questions, because it could, be detrimental to your health at this point. And yeah, so what ends up happening is Lee ends up leaving at this point. He gives one more admonishing about the Magisterium being there, then he leaves. Yeah. So Mrs. Coulter, in the meantime, is writing the letter aboard her ship to the north, and She writes down, she's actually narrating as she's writing, and she says, "My northern kin," is how she starts off the letter. Now, my northern kin, does that mean that she's a witch as well? What's going on? How else can her daemon go so far from her? Kind of like what we already saw with Seraphina's daemon. Uh, so right now, all I'm seeing is that, all this evidence is pointing towards Mrs. Coulter being a witch and from the north as well. And unless someone tells me otherwise, I don't know if that's not the case in the book or not, but they are certainly making that case here in this show. But I don't know for sure. We'll find out together. So the Egyptians, in the meantime, are basically going to leave. They're packing up, get ready to leave without Uruk. They're like, you know what? The bear's trouble. We don't need him, and we're going to leave. And they also have word that Azrael has been taken prisoner, and that Uruk tore up the town and is paying off that debt for tearing up the town. That's why they have his armor. They were able to knock him down and take his armor off of him. Yeah. So Lyra asks the compass to find, she basically asks the compass what actually happened, and it turns out that the town tricked him into getting drunk and took his armor as payment for that, of course, for him ripping up the town. Yeah, and John says basically they don't want the bear at this point. That there's probably more to it than that, and they really don't want to get involved with that bear at this point. Being a little bit speciest at that. Sisselman was Dudley Dursey in the Armless Leg. Oh, that's right. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. That's right. I remember him. Yeah, he's a very expressive face, a very familiar face. It looks very plasticky too. In the meantime, Carlo meets the priest where the alethiometer is over at the magisterium, and he wants to know what Grumman discovered. And the priest says that's heretical. And Carlo tells him, you know what? I will expose you to the world if you don't give me what I want. And he goes, how can he find what Grumman discovered? That's the question that he wants. So this priest has a lot of work. He's got 2 questions asked of him within a day, and he doesn't know how to use that damn thing for the life of him. And so it's going to take him a while to get it done. I hope you wrote this stuff down quite honestly, to go through all that work and just ask the wrong question. You know, talk about, big snafu on that one. Pan, in the meantime, tells Lyra there's only one person in town that knows Uruk. And so they go over to Lee, who is having his bacon inside he's still in town. And Hester is basically telling Lee, you know what? Everyone knows you stole from them. You might want to leave because they're getting kind of ugly right now. Everyone's staring at you. He goes, no, 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 everything's fine. And that's when Lyra comes in and she says, oh, I represent the Egyptians and we want to hire you. And we want Uruk. I want to get Uruk on our side. And Lee tells her that Uruk is obligated to the town and they have his armor, and that his armor is basically like his daemon and has his soul, his fighting soul in that. And as soon as he tells her that, Lyra leaves to find it. And she's so fast that, he doesn't see her leave or steal his bacon either. She steals his bacon as she takes off. Lyra and Pan, in the meantime, sneak into the metalworks and find Uruk, who's just, looking around. He's looking for his armor and he can't find it. And she asks him, why doesn't he just build some new armor out of the metal that he's got there? And he goes, basically, this metal's crap. He goes, my metal was made of sky iron and I made it freely, is what he says. And she tells him that she can find his armor and she will find his armor if he comes with her. And he says, all right, I will, but I reserved a right to kill anybody who tries to stop me. And she's like, all right, that sounds good. And so she says it's in the middle of town, basically in the church, essentially, is where it's at. And he's just rips through town and just starts running straight towards that place, busts in, gets his armor, and all the cops come running out, including Sisselman, and they fire at him, and then their guns jam, and he starts, tossing cops around. He's going to eat Sisselman. at one point, and she yells at him to stop. And she goes, "As part of my debt, don't kill him. You owe me," is what she says. And this is when Lee decides to come out and says, "Hey, I heard there was a disturbance in town." And he tells Yurik, he goes, "You're better than this, man. Don't kill him." You know what? Let's just go. Yeah. So they end up leaving. So Lyra shows up and she sees that the Egyptians are getting ready to pack up to leave. And she goes, "Oh, that's great. We're ready to go." And just in time because look who I've got with me. I've got Yurik. And they're like, "Okay." And also, I've got Lee with me as well here. He's, aeronaut. And John Farr's like, "Okay, that's great." And Lee finally realizes that she was not that John Farr had not sent her to hire him, so he has to go through a different spiel in order to say, "Hey, the bear doesn't work for free, and neither do I." And so the Egyptians agree to hire them on at this point. Mrs. Coulter, in the meantime, goes into a cave to meet with someone named King Yefa, and he's captured Lord Asriel. And it was originally to pay his debt to her, but he goes, "You know what? Fuck that. I'm going to keep him and do with him as I please." And she goes, "You know what? How about this? How about I offer you a baptism into the magisterium, the first and only bear to get one of those." And he goes, "Really? Okay." And in return, she wants him to destroy Lord Asriel's laboratory and any dust research, and also hold Asriel for her until she comes back for him at that point. So the final thing that we see is the Egyptians leaving on foot and heading to the north. And that's where we leave off on the episode. We got a lot of movement. Um, More than likely, Mrs. Coulter is a witch, which we've gotten a few things that kind of point towards that in this episode, as well as stuff that's happened in previous episodes. And we've got Yurik now. We've got a giant bear in armor that talks. So yeah, we've got all of that. Bacon thieves, the worst. Not that I eat bacon. Hey, David. Uh, yeah, bacon thieves are pretty fucking bad. I'll have to say that much. Unless you've made a lot of bacon, then you can share. Okay. I'm looking forward to the Carlo Boreal scenes now. Okay. I don't know what that's about, but we'll find out. So, um, interesting, but so this is kind of feeling a little bit more. I know it's geared towards kids, that the books were geared towards kids and things like that, and that's what it feels like to me. So it's not like, and I understand that's what it's geared towards. So I'm fully in the mindset for that, but I kind of wanted to see that bear fuck some people up, you know. Yeah. A big armored bear would be great, but feeding him could cost an arm and a leg. Huh. That was a good one, Pen. Um, yeah, I wanted to see him actually rip apart Sisselman, tell you the truth, but different show, different show altogether. Yeah. I understand, it's kids show, uh, or geared towards kids. So yeah, it's that's what I would like to see. A little more a little more violence. And come on, can, Mrs. Coulter show a little more cleavage or no? I kid. She could. Um, I give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, 7.5 out of 10. Yeah. Like I said, it moved the story along, but it was still pretty slow on this one. Yes, I am a tough judge of character. I know that. There's time we may get bear carnage. VP likes it, so it shouldn't be completely juvenile. That's true. This is true. Yeah. Um, yeah, next week, I don't know. I saw the trailer and I forgot the trailer as soon as I saw it. So it's been a day. So I'm a little bit on the tired side too. Let's see what we got. This is Thanksgiving week, of course. So I'm off tomorrow, Wednesday, and of course Thursday, Turkey Day. But I'm back on Friday for The Mandalorian. And The Mandalorian, just this Friday only, is at a new time slot. It's at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's right, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Why? Because I can. And then Titans is also going to be at a special time on Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, why? Because I can. And it's the season finale of Titans. Yeah. That happened to me with Watchmen. I couldn't remember the trailer 2 minutes after I watched. I didn't see the trailer for Watchmen actually because it ran over into Mr. Robot. So I ran and went and saw Mr. Robot instead. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be doing any kind of uh, videos during Turkey Day. So you guys are on your own in that. Saturday, of course, the Saturday morning blast off, where I take the genre news of the week, talk about that, and any other genre stuff you guys want to talk about. And Sunday is the double header of Mr. Robot and Watchmen, and then we wrap it all back around again. Oh, I almost forgot. This Friday is also the premiere of the animated Harley Quinn. The first episode drops on DC Universe, so I will be showing or talking about that probably in the evening ish time on that one as well. I'll know better when I see when it's on. Yeah. Yeah, no shit. Saturday morning blast off doesn't need any help going off the rails. I do it all the time. What was I talked for about 45 minutes about nothing but Disneyland and Galaxy's Edge and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure people just kind of skipped over all that stuff at the end. How are the tears coming? Uh, they will be coming, David. You don't need to ask those kind of questions. What do you got? An alethiometer there in your pocket? Huh? Why do you got to be so nosy, huh? I've got things in the works. Let's just say that's all I can say. I know. I know you're asking, but yes, I am. I'm working on it. Oh, sorry. I just needed to readjust my spine. That's the other thing I got to do too is get that readjusted as well. So, with that said, I'm going to let you guys go for the evening because one, I'm really, really tired. And two, I've run out of things to say, I think. So, yeah. Thank you, everybody who joined me. Have a good no shave November. Well, there's only a couple days left in it. Uh, and it's not that. I pretty much always have this. I shave it off every now and then just for fun. Actually, when it bugs me, that's when I do it. Thank you, everybody who joined me tonight in the chat. Thank you if you made it this far in the video. And if you're still on the fence about joining up, you're going to see a video pop up here at the very end of this video that basically takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and matches a video out of my vast video library up to your stuff as closely as possible. Pops up there for you. Up here is going to be Watchmen. Remember, like, share, and subscribe down below. Also, if you want to see when I'm going to be on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. It's not a guarantee that they're actually going to notify you, but it will happen at some point in time. Also, you can go to suspendedfanimation.com, see my schedule up there, and it's also mirrored on my Facebook page. I have a Twitter and Instagram, and I have a Patreon page, but I don't have any tiers set up as of yet, which will happen at the end of this year, beginning next year. There we go. Yes, and yes, thank you, Penn. Have a happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys that are, U.S. residents. I know the rest of you have other stuff. It's just Thursday to you, so that's what happens. So, thank you, everybody. I will see you on Friday. Until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may find yourself face to face with a very drunk bear who's pretty grumpy, quite honestly. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.